It's October 26, 1942, 10:17 a.m., South Pacific. A 550-pound Japanese bomb punches through the flight deck of USS Enterprise near the forward elevator. The explosion kills 44 men instantly. Flames erupt from the hangar deck. Black smoke pours into the sky, visible for miles. In Tokyo, Japanese radio prepares the announcement. The American carrier Enterprise has been sunk. Except Enterprise's engines are still running. Her crew is already fighting the fires. And in 90 minutes, she'll be launching and recovering aircraft again, with a 10-foot hole in her flight deck. This is the second time Japan declares Enterprise dead. It won't be the last. USS Enterprise, hull number CV-6, commissioned May 12, 1938, was 827 feet of American steel that would become the most decorated ship in U.S. Navy history. 20 battle stars. More than any battleship, cruiser, destroyer, or submarine in World War II. More than any other carrier by a margin of 8 battle stars. But on December 7, 1941, she almost wasn't there at all. Enterprise was supposed to be at Pearl Harbor that morning. She'd left Hawaii on November 28 as part of Task Force 8 under Vice Admiral William Halsey, delivering Marine Fighter Squadron 211 to Wake Island. The mission ran behind schedule. Bad weather. Refueling delays. On the morning of December 7th, Enterprise was 200 miles west of Oahu, steaming back to Pearl. Her scout planes arrived over Pearl Harbor at 8:15 a.m., right into the middle of the Japanese attack. 6 Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise's scouting squadron. 6 ran straight into Japanese Zeros. The Americans didn't even know what was happening until the Zeros opened fire. 4 of the 6 American planes were shot down. When word reached Enterprise, Halsey wanted to launch everything and go hunting for the Japanese carriers. His staff talked him down. Enterprise had 79 aircraft. The Japanese had 6 carriers and over 400 planes. Math doesn't lie. So Enterprise survived December 7th by accident. Pure dumb luck and a delayed schedule. That luck wouldn't hold. Because after Pearl Harbor, the U.S. Pacific Fleet had exactly 3 operational carriers: Enterprise, Lexington, and Saratoga. That's it. 8 American battleships were sunk or damaged at Pearl Harbor. The carrier force was all that stood between Japan and total control of the Pacific. And the Japanese knew it. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the combined fleet, understood carrier warfare better than most American admirals. He knew that carriers decided battles now, not battleships. Sink the American carriers, and the war was over. Japan could fortify its conquered territory and force a negotiated peace before American industry overwhelmed them. Enterprise immediately became Japan's most wanted target. Every Japanese pilot knew her silhouette. Every intelligence officer tracked her movements. Every battle plan prioritized her destruction. Between December 1941 and August 1945, Enterprise would participate in 20 major naval engagements. She'd launch the Doolittle raid bombers toward Tokyo. She'd turn the tide at Midway. She'd slug it out at Guadalcanal when the U.S. had no other carriers left operational. She'd survive kamikaze strikes that should have sent her to the bottom. And 3 separate times, Tokyo Rose would go on Japanese radio and announce to the world that the American carrier Enterprise had been sunk. 3 times, Japanese newspapers would print her obituary. 3 times, Emperor Hirohito's military staff would brief him on her destruction. 3 times, they were wrong. This is the story of the ship the Japanese couldn't kill. Hey, real quick before we dive deeper, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. What city, what state, what country, and what time is it where you are? Always cool to see this community spread across the globe. All right, let's get into it. By February 1942, the strategic math facing the U.S. Pacific Fleet was brutal. Saratoga took a torpedo from Japanese submarine I-6 on January 11th off Hawaii. She'd survive, but needed 5 months of repairs in Bremerton. Lexington was operating in the Coral Sea. That left Enterprise as the only American carrier in the Central Pacific. One carrier, against the entire Japanese combined fleet. The Japanese had 6 fleet carriers operational: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, and Zuikaku, plus light carriers Shoho and Zuiho. The Imperial Japanese Navy had been building and refining carrier doctrine since the 1920s. Their pilots averaged over 800 flight hours. Their torpedoes worked. Their dive bombers were accurate. Their fighter pilots were some of the best in the world. Enterprise's air group had pilots with maybe 300 flight hours, some fresh from flight school with barely 200. American torpedoes were defective. The Mark 13 had a failure rate over 60%. The TBD Devastator torpedo bomber was obsolete, slow, and vulnerable. Against Japanese Zeros, it was a death sentence. But Enterprise had one advantage. Her crew had figured out damage control better than anyone else in the Pacific. On February 1, 1942, Enterprise participated in her first offensive operation: raids on Japanese installations in the Marshall and Gilbert Islands. Task Force 8 hit Kwajalein, Wotia, and Maluelap. Enterprise's aircraft sank 3 ships and damaged 8 more. The Japanese didn't forget. March 4, 1942. Enterprise provided fighter cover for the bombardment of Marcus Island, just 1,000 miles from Tokyo. Japanese land-based bombers attacked the task force. Enterprise's F-4F Wildcats shot down 2 Mitsubishi G-4M bombers. The raid sent a message. American carriers could strike within range of Japan itself. Then came April 18, 1942. The Doolittle Raid. Enterprise didn't launch the B-25 bombers. That was USS Hornet's job. But Enterprise provided the fighter cover for the entire operation. Task Force 16 steamed to within 650 miles of Japan. 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers lifted off Hornet's deck and bombed Tokyo, Yokohama, Osaka, and Nagoya. The raid did minimal physical damage, but the psychological impact was massive. American bombers over Tokyo meant the Emperor himself was vulnerable. It meant Japan's home islands could be attacked. It meant the war wasn't going to be the easy victory Japanese propaganda promised, and it made Enterprise an even bigger target. May 7-8, 1942, Battle of the Coral Sea. Enterprise wasn't there. Lexington and Yorktown fought that one. Lexington was sunk. Yorktown was damaged. Now the U.S. had 2 operational carriers in the entire Pacific, Enterprise and Hornet. 2 American carriers, 6 Japanese carriers, and the Japanese were planning something big. Naval intelligence intercepts suggested a major Japanese operation scheduled for early June. Target: Midway Island. The Japanese plan was to lure out the remaining American carriers and destroy them in a decisive battle. Yamamoto was bringing 4 fleet carriers: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, plus the entire combined fleet. Over 200 ships. The Americans would have 3 carriers: Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown. Yorktown was supposed to need 3 months of repairs after Coral Sea. Pearl Harbor Navy Yard completed them in 72 hours. She was combat capable, barely, held together with temporary welds and prayers. Enterprise's air group at Midway consisted of 27 F-4F Wildcat fighters, 37 SBD Dauntless dive bombers, and 14 TBD Devastator torpedo bombers. 78 aircraft total. The Japanese had 248 aircraft on their 4 carriers. Enterprise's orders were simple: find the Japanese carriers and sink them before they found you. In carrier warfare, whoever landed the first strike usually won. Carriers were fast, but fragile. 1 bomb hit could knock out a flight deck. 3 or 4 could sink her. The Japanese knew this, and they'd been hunting Enterprise for 6 months. At Midway, one side was going to die. June 4, 1942. 7 a.m. Enterprise is 200 miles northeast of Midway Island. Her scouts have been searching for the Japanese fleet since before dawn. Nothing yet. At 7:52 a.m., Lieutenant Howard 80 in a PBY Catalina flying boat radios the contact report. Many planes heading Midway, bearing 320, distance 150. Admiral Raymond Spruance, commanding Task Force 16 from Enterprise, makes the call. Launch everything. Now. At 8:06 a.m., Enterprise begins launching her strike group. Commander Wade McCluskey leads 33 SBD Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise. Hornet launches 35 more dive bombers. The American torpedo squadrons go first. Slow, low, vulnerable TBD devastators carrying Mark 13 torpedoes that barely work. The torpedo squadrons find the Japanese carriers at 9:30 a.m. Torpedo Squadron 8 from Hornet attacks first. All 15 aircraft are shot down. 14 pilots and 29 crewmen killed. Only one survivor, Ensign George Gay, floating in the ocean watching the battle. Torpedo Squadron 6 from Enterprise attacks next. 10 aircraft launched, 4 shot down, 0 hits. Torpedo Squadron 3 from Yorktown follows. 10 aircraft, 7 shot down, 0 hits. The torpedo attacks accomplish nothing except pulling Japanese fighters down to sea level. Every zero in the air is now low, chasing torpedo bombers, burning fuel. At 10:22 a.m., Wade McCluskey's dive bombers from Enterprise arrive overhead at 14,000 feet. The Japanese carriers are turning into the wind, preparing to launch their strike against the American fleet. Aircraft are spotted on the flight decks, fueled and armed. Bombs, torpedoes, aviation gas lines running across the deck. McCluskey picks his targets. He takes half the dive bombers, Scouting Squadron 6, against carrier Kaga. He sends Lieutenant Richard Best with Bombing Squadron 6 against carrier Akagi. At 10:26 a.m., McCluskey rolls into his dive. 70-degree angle. Airspeed building past 250 knots. The SBD Dauntless could pull 7 Gs in a dive and not come apart. McCluskey releases at 1,500 feet. 500-pound bomb. Direct hit amidships on Kaga. 3 more bombs hit Kaga within 2 minutes. The carrier's hangar deck explodes. Fueled aircraft ignite. Torpedoes cook off. The blast blows aircraft off the flight deck into the ocean. Kaga is finished. Lieutenant Best's section hits Akagi with 2 bombs at 10:26 a.m. One penetrates the flight deck near the amidships elevator. The explosion detonates torpedoes and bombs on the hangar deck. Akagi's aviation fuel storage ruptures. The carrier becomes an inferno. Dive bombers from Yorktown hit carrier Soryu at 10:27 a.m. 3 bombs. Same result. Fire, explosions, catastrophic damage. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese fleet carriers are burning and sinking. The same carriers that attacked Pearl Harbor. The elite of the Japanese Navy. Dead in the water. But the 4th carrier, Hiryu, is still operational, and she launches a strike against the American fleet. At 12:00 p.m., Japanese dive bombers from Hiryu attack Yorktown. 3 bomb hits. Yorktown is crippled but survives. At 2:45 p.m., Japanese torpedo bombers from Hiryu attack Yorktown again. 2 torpedo hits. Yorktown starts listing and has to be abandoned. Now Enterprise is the only undamaged American carrier left in the battle. Spruance orders Enterprise to launch a second strike. At 3:30 p.m., 24 dive bombers from Enterprise find Hiryu. 4 bomb hits. Hiryu catches fire and burns through the night. She sinks at 9 a.m. on June 5th. 4 Japanese carriers sunk. Enterprise damaged but operational. The turning point of the Pacific War happened in 6 hours, and Tokyo Rose went on Japanese radio that night and announced that the American carrier Enterprise had been destroyed at Midway. Except Enterprise was already steaming back toward Pearl Harbor, recovering aircraft, burying her dead, preparing for the next battle. First, sinking. June 4th, 1942. Enterprise still fighting. August 7th, 1942. U.S. Marines land on Guadalcanal, the first major American offensive of the war. They need carrier air support. Enterprise and Saratoga provide it. The Japanese response is immediate and massive. They're not giving up Guadalcanal. The island controls the sea lanes to Australia. Lose Guadalcanal, and the entire Japanese defensive perimeter in the South Pacific collapses. August 24, 1942. Battle of the Eastern Solomons. Japanese carrier Ryujo launches strikes against American positions on Guadalcanal. Enterprise scout planes find Ryujo at 2:25 p.m. Enterprise launches 38 dive bombers and torpedo bombers. They sink Ryujo at 4:00 p.m., but the Japanese have another carrier in the fight, Shokaku. At 4:48 p.m., Japanese dive bombers from Shokaku hit Enterprise. One bomb penetrates the flight deck aft of the No. 2 elevator. The explosion kills 35 men. Enterprise's speed drops to 11 knots. Her damage control crews patch the hull with steel plates in under an hour. By 5:45 p.m., Enterprise is making 24 knots and launching fighters. The Japanese think they've crippled her. They haven't. But the attrition is killing the American carrier force. Saratoga takes a torpedo from submarine I-26 on August 31st. Out of action for 3 months. Wasp is torpedoed and sunk by submarine I-19 on September 15th. Hornet is operating alone near the Santa Cruz Islands. By October 1942, Enterprise and Hornet are the only 2 operational American carriers in the entire Pacific. 2. And the Japanese know exactly where they are. October 26, 1942. Battle of Santa Cruz. This is the fight I started with. Enterprise and Hornet against Japanese carriers, Shokaku, Zuikaku, Zuiho, and Junyo. The Japanese launch 110 aircraft. The Americans launch 73. At 8:40 a.m., Enterprise scout planes find the Japanese fleet 200 miles northwest. Both sides launch everything. This is going to be a slugfest. At 9:10 a.m., American dive bombers hit carrier Zuiho. 2 bomb hits. Zuiho's flight deck is wrecked. She can't launch or recover aircraft. At 9:27 a.m., American dive bombers hit Shokaku. 3 to 6 bomb hits. Sources vary. Shokaku catches fire. She survives but won't be operational for 9 months. At 10:10 a.m., the Japanese counterstrike hits Hornet. Dive bombers, torpedo bombers, kamikaze attacks. One Japanese pilot deliberately crashes his damaged bomber into Hornet's flight deck. 2 torpedoes hit Hornet's hull. 3 bombs. She's dead in the water. Burning. Abandoned by 2:00 p.m. Sunk that night. Enterprise is 10 miles away. Her turn is coming. At 10:17 a.m., a Japanese Aichi D-3A dive bomber puts a 550-pound bomb through Enterprise's flight deck near the forward elevator. The explosion tears a 10-foot hole in the deck, kills 44 men, starts fires on the hangar deck. Enterprise's crew fights the fires. Patch crews weld steel plates over the hole. The ship's forward elevator is jammed. Doesn't matter. At 11:45 a.m., 90 minutes after getting bombed, Enterprise is recovering aircraft using her aft elevator. 2 more bomb hits follow. One at 11:15 a.m. near the aft elevator, another at 11:44 a.m. Enterprise takes 3 bomb hits total. 44 men killed, 75 wounded. Flight deck damaged in 3 places. She should be sinking. Japanese pilots report her dead in the water, burning, finished. Tokyo Rose goes on the radio that night. Second announcement: the American carrier Enterprise has been sunk at Santa Cruz, except Enterprise is steaming south at 16 knots. Her fires are out. Her crew is already making temporary repairs, and she'll be back in combat in 6 weeks. Hornet is gone. Wasp is gone. Enterprise is the only operational American carrier in the Pacific Theater. She's damaged, she's battered, and she's not stopping. November 1942. Enterprise is the only American carrier standing between Japan and total control of the South Pacific. The next carrier reinforcement, USS Essex, won't arrive until May 1943, 6 months away. Enterprise limps into New Caledonia on October 30th with 3 bomb holes in her flight deck. Repair crews work around the clock. Welding, replacing steel plates, fixing the elevator. In 12 days, she's back at sea. not fully repaired. Combat capable. She returns to Guadalcanal in November, provides air cover for the naval battle of Guadalcanal on November 12-15th. Her aircraft sink Japanese battleship Hiei, damage cruiser Kinugasa. The Americans hold Guadalcanal. The Japanese never recapture it. Enterprise earns 5 battle stars just for Guadalcanal operations. Through 1943 and 1944, Enterprise participates in every major offensive: Gilbert Islands, Marshall Islands, Marianas, Philippines. Her aircraft sink warships, transports, and merchant vessels. She provides close air support for Marines storming beaches. She hunts submarines. She never stops. April 11th, 1945. Off Okinawa. The kamikaze war is in full swing. Japanese suicide pilots are targeting carriers with fanatical determination. Enterprise has already survived multiple kamikaze attacks. At 6:56 a.m., a Zero fighter breaks through the combat air patrol. The pilot aims straight for Enterprise's flight deck. Defensive fire hits him. The Zero wobbles but keeps coming, crashes into the forward edge of the flight deck. The explosion kills 13 men, wounds 68, starts fires. Enterprise's crew extinguishes the fires in 30 minutes. She continues flight operations. May 14th, 1945. Another kamikaze. This one hits the forward elevator. The blast blows the elevator 400 feet into the air. It crashes back down onto the flight deck. 14 killed, 34 wounded. The forward elevator is completely destroyed. Enterprise should be finished. Instead, her crew clears the wreckage and continues using the aft elevator. She keeps fighting. Tokyo Rose makes her third announcement. The American carrier Enterprise has been sunk off Okinawa, except Enterprise is sailing for Puget Sound Navy Yard for repairs. She'll be in overhaul when Japan surrenders on August 15, 1945. Final tally, 20 battle stars, most of any U.S. Navy ship in World War II. No other carrier earned more than 12. Enterprise earned nearly twice that. Her aircraft shot down 911 enemy aircraft, sank 71 ships, damaged or destroyed 192 more. She participated in nearly every major carrier battle of the Pacific War: Midway, Eastern Solomons, Santa Cruz, Philippine Sea, Leyte Gulf, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. The Japanese declared her sunk 3 times. She survived all 3. After the war, Enterprise was decommissioned on February 17, 1947. The Navy planned to preserve her as a museum ship. Congress authorized it. Fundraising began. It failed. Nobody wanted to pay for it. In 1958, Enterprise was sold for scrap. Broken up in New Jersey, the most decorated ship in U.S. Navy history, cut apart and melted down. There's no museum ship Enterprise today. No memorial. Just photographs and the men who served on her. But her legacy lives. The name Enterprise lives. Every American carrier since has honored her. CV-65, the first nuclear carrier. CVN-80, scheduled to commission in 2030. Because Enterprise proved something fundamental. Battles aren't won by ships. They're won by crews, damage control teams who patch holes under fire, pilots who fly missions when mathematically they shouldn't survive, engineers who keep engines running when the ship should be sinking. Japan declared Enterprise dead 3 times. Her crew said otherwise. 20 battle stars. The ship that wouldn't die. The Big E. She earned every single one.